If you're a true Liverpool fan, subscribe to Anfield Signal. Fabrizio Romano shares big update on Alexis Mac Allister's Liverpool future. Liverpool have been through a lot of changes since the 2025-26 summer transfer window first opened. Over £400 million was spent on bringing new talent to Anfield, with the club looking to add yet another Premier League title to their trophy cabinet. Obviously, things didn't pan out that way, as the Reds are currently 6th in the Premier League table, 15 points adrift of first-placed Arsenal. Indeed, they still have the Champions League and FA Cup to fight for, but if they don't finish in the Premier League's top 4, some serious questions will need to be asked. And even though the January transfer window has only just closed, rumors are already starting to emerge about Arne Slot's transfer plans, with players such as Alexis Mac Allister already being linked with an exit. On Monday, Manchester United were linked with the sensational swoop for Mac Allister, with the Red Devils looking to improve their midfield. Several other players were also mentioned, but the fact that United are throwing themselves into the ring for the transfer of the Argentinian is rather mental. The central midfielder is one of Slot's most trusted players, and even though Real Madrid have long been linked with the move for the 27-year-old, it doesn't feel likely that the midfielder will exit anytime soon. However, since these links emerged, the rumor mill has gone into overdrive, with Fabrizio Romano now sharing an update on the midfielder's future. At the moment, I'm not aware of anything concrete or strong in terms of links between Manchester United and Mac Allister, he said via his YouTube channel. Man United will be busy in the summer. Man United will be really busy with that position. Could be one, could be two midfielders. It could be really interesting. But before they decide who they want, there are two main points to clarify: whether they play in the Champions League next season, which will influence their budget, and who will be the manager, Michael Carrick or other candidates. Man United will not decide in February. Among the names, there's Elliot Anderson, Carlos Baleba, who was a top target under Ruben Amorim, Sandro Tonali, and others. At the moment, with Alexis Mac Allister, there is nothing really advanced, concrete, or starting in terms of conversations. The only area among Liverpool's team which doesn't need upgrading is their midfield. Now that Florian Wirtz has been added to the mix, the Anfield outfit have at least two different options for each position, with players such as Curtis Jones often missing out despite the quality he brings to the table. Mac Allister and Ryan Gravenberch are Slot's usual defensive midfielders, and on the odd occasion that one of them is absent, Jones is the one who fills in. Although this may seem rather unfair, if Liverpool want to become the best team in the world, and if they want to continue competing against Europe's best teams, they need to have enough depth among their ranks. This has been one of the main problems that their defense and attack have faced this term, due to the number of injuries they've suffered. As Romano mentioned, nothing concrete is in the works yet, but if Liverpool are even considering moving someone such as Mac Allister or even Jones on during the 2026-27 season, then they could find themselves in massive trouble. Bayern Munich chief confirms interest in Liverpool ace. Over the last couple of years, Liverpool and Bayern Munich have managed to be fairly involved in one another's dealings, although Luis Diaz is the only player to have made the move from one club to another recently. It seems like both teams have similar transfer targets. For example, during the summer transfer window, Bayern and Liverpool were both interested in adding Nico Williams to their ranks, and in the end, the Spaniard didn't choose to join either club, hence why Diaz made the switch. Since then, others such as Nico Schlotterbeck have been linked with the move, but up until now, nothing has come to fruition. Of course, most of Europe's biggest clubs are likely to want the same players, especially if they're young, as they're often the best in their position. And now, the same thing has happened again with Vincent Kompany and Max Eberl eyeing up a Liverpool ace. Although Liverpool didn't add any new players to their ranks during the winter transfer window, that doesn't mean that they weren't involved in some dealings. The one player that the Anfield outfit did choose to make a move for was Jeremy Jacquet, with the young Frenchman agreeing a deal with the club. Other teams such as Chelsea were the ones who had the strongest links with the center-back, but in the end, Jacquet chose Liverpool. In fact, even though the Bundesliga outfit didn't make a bid for the Frenchman, Bayern chief Eberl has just confirmed that they had their eyes on him. Of course, the extensions cost money, but it cost even more if I have to buy players of the quality of Joshua Kimmich, Jamal Musiala, Alphonso Davies, or Dayot Upamecano, if you can even find them, he said to Sport 1. For example, Jeremy Jacquet from Stade Rennes would have been a great player for us. But when we see that he is going to Liverpool for a reported £70 million at the age of 19, we have to consider what is best for Bayern Munich. And our answer was to go ahead with the extension with Dayot. He knows the club, is in his prime and is one of the best center backs in the world. So it's the right decision, both athletically and financially. Seeing as though Ibrahima Konate still hasn't extended his Liverpool contract and Virgil van Dijk will be entering the final year of his current deal next season, it's clear that Liverpool must start planning for their defense's future. Indeed, Arne Slot and Richard Hughes already started to do this during the summer as they added Giovanni Leone, Milos Kerkez and Jeremy Frimpong to their ranks, but with the number of injuries that they've suffered this season, it's hardly surprising to see that the Anfield outfit spent a hefty chunk of change on Chiesa. The 20-year-old is one of the most highly regarded youngsters in League One, and even though he has recently been ruled out for a few weeks due to a dislocated shoulder, his quality is unbelievable. Of course, there's plenty that could change before the start of next season, but at the moment, it feels like Chiesa could be the Reds' next Van Dijk. That is, if his development continues as it has started over the last couple of campaigns. Real Madrid midfielder opens door to Liverpool transfer. A Real Madrid midfielder has opened the door to join Liverpool with an interesting statement, after Trent Alexander-Arnold left on a free transfer-dependent contract with the Spanish Giants. Even the mere mention of their name leaves a bitter taste in Red supporters' mouths. For so many years, Real Madrid has plundered Liverpool. It started with signing Steve McManaman, then Michael Owen, Xabi Alonso, and Alvaro Arbeloa. Now they could take Ibrahima Konate. Potentially Dominic Szoboszlai and Alexis Mac Allister are also on their radar. When does this stop? But what if Liverpool can strike their own revenge? What if there is a chance for the Reds to plunder Real Madrid themselves? Well, the door seems to be open for Liverpool to pounce on a target that has been on their radar for a long time. Anfield Signal understands that if the Reds get Champions League football, one of the players on Richard Hughes' shortlist to bolster their midfield will be Eduardo Camavinga. The Frenchman will make up a long shortlist that includes the likes of Adam Wharton, Elliot Anderson, N. Warren Zaire-Emery, Keith Smith, Eyal Bouati, and many others. At first glance, Camavinga may seem like an unlikely option, or one of the least likely options at least. However, Liverpool's chance of signing the player might be higher than you think. Camavinga has definitely opened the door to a potential move recently. In Real Madrid's press conference leading up to their game against Benfica in the Champions League, Camavinga was asked about his favorite position. "I like to play as 6. It's my favorite position. What I lack is regularity," Camavinga said. Now, why is this statement interesting? Why does it open the door for Liverpool to make a move? Well, Camavinga rarely ever plays as a 0.6 at Real Madrid. He rarely even plays as a midfielder, typically being used as a left-sided wing-back or left-back. Sometimes he plays as a no 8, but never as the no 6 because that is Aurelien Tchouameni's role. He's never going to oust him from that role either. The "I lack regularity" comment at the end also just adds more fuel to the fire. It sounds a little bit like Camavinga is frustrated by having to play in a number of different roles. Perhaps a change of environment. A promise of a regular role in the 0.6 position where Liverpool do need a first-choice option could tempt him to join the Reds. Either way, that comment does open up the possibility of a transfer. So, Camavinga's situation is one to keep an eye on. Liverpool hugely keen on deal for elite Premier League star. Liverpool are reportedly hugely keen on a deal for one of the Premier League's biggest talents. But, can they get a deal done? Liverpool will return to the transfer window in the summer with grand plans. They've got to reshape the squad they built a year prior, something they decided not to do in January. But with so many question marks over senior players heading into the postseason, there's little doubt that Liverpool will make things happen. Mo Salah, for one, could leave the club and spark all sorts of changes. The team certainly needs a rethink. It's moved backwards since the title win, with the current group simply not meshing together in a positive way. And that means spending money on stars who can knit things together. It appears Liverpool have found one, even if a deal for him won't be simple. Liverpool have been linked to Morgan Rogers for a little over a year now. There's little doubt that they rate him. But then, who wouldn't? Rogers has consistently looked like one of the most creative players in the Premier League. He's decisive, someone who can make something happen out of nothing. Not only that, he's homegrown. It's no surprise, then, that Liverpool remain hugely keen on signing Rogers. That's from Team Talk, who indicate that there haven't been any talks for Rogers, but the Reds are firmly in the fight to sign him. Whether Rogers moves or not largely depends on what happens with Aston Villa between now and the end of the season. Qualifying for UEFA Champions League football once again would give them enormous power in keeping their star. Fail to do that and Rogers almost certainly leaves. With Liverpool ready to take advantage, we certainly hope they do. Rodgers is an outstanding talent, and his homegrown status could make him a staple in the team for a long time to come. Whether he's available is another matter, but if he is, Liverpool should be all in. Arne Slot should offer Premier League rival swap deal for unbelievable Liverpool ace. Liverpool are highly likely to go through more changes during the upcoming summer transfer window. Although most fans thought that their club would be one of the most dominant teams in the world, the fact that it took so long for their players to gel together has massively hindered them. At the moment, the Anfield outfit are 6th in the Premier League with the gap between themselves and first-placed Arsenal too far for them to even think about winning the title. They still have the Champions League and FA Cup to fight for, but if they want to try and win the Premier League and the Champions League next season, they're going to have to make some serious changes. And even if the sale of some players may seem a tad harsh, some outside-of-the-box thinking may have to be done if Arne Slot wants to get the best out of his team. During the January transfer window, talk about Federico Chiesa's future was rife with Juventus being consistently linked with their former attacker. However, since Liverpool couldn't source a good enough replacement for the Italian, he stayed put. And even though the old lady were the ones with the most interest in Chiesa, according to Calcio Mercato, West Ham United were also interested in acquiring his services. Much like Liverpool, the Hammers have massively struggled to string a few results together with the club 3 points into the relegation zone. Adding a player of Chiesa's quality to there would have massively boosted their chances of retaining their Premier League status and would have perhaps kept someone such as Lucas Paqueta around for longer. However, with it now feeling unlikely that the Hammers will escape the drop zone, questions are being asked about some of their players, with their captain Jarrod Bowen unlikely to want to play out the prime of his career in the Championship. Over the last few years, the Reds' interest in Bowen has been well documented, although the links with Bowen have died down since Jurgen Klopp's departure. If the opportunity to sign the Englishman arose, it's hard to see why Liverpool wouldn't make a move. He can play as a number 9 and on the right wing, which, with Mohamed Salah's contract set to expire next summer, would make him an ideal replacement for the Egyptian king. Bowen has also been the Hammers' best player for some time now, and without him among their ranks, they'd probably be even further down the Premier League table. He may be 29 years old, but with the amount of top-flight experience he has under his belt, he'd be an almost perfect addition to any club. On the other hand, even though Chiesa is a tad younger and slightly more versatile, it's clear that his Liverpool transfer has flopped. The Italian's future has been under question ever since he joined, and with his playing time failing to increase this season, it's hard to see why the former Juventus man would want to stick around. If he joined West Ham, he'd be one of their best attackers and he would likely thrive away from the spotlight, which is why a swap deal for both players makes plenty of sense. That is, even if Chiesa has been dubbed an unbelievable player in the past. Liverpool plans for Federico Chiesa confirmed ahead of summer transfer window. Federico Chiesa has managed to become a cult hero at Liverpool despite the fact that he's hardly been chosen to play by Arne Slot. The Reds signed the Italy international during the 2024-25 summer transfer window for a fee worth around £10 million, with most fans believing that they'd secured the bargain of the summer. However, that unfortunately wasn't the case, with Slot choosing to play almost every other attacker despite their poor form this season. Chiesa has been handed the opportunity to play some games, but in reality, most people expected him to exit Anfield during the winter transfer window, especially since Juventus were strongly interested in acquiring his services. But since Liverpool didn't sign any sort of replacement for the attacker, he stayed put with several questions about what's next still hanging over his head. Liverpool's attacking line have often failed to perform to the standards expected of them this season. Players such as Cody Gakpo and Mohamed Salah have massively underperformed, which has brought a lot of extra added pressure upon the Anfield outfit. As a result of this, several attackers have already been linked with an Anfield switch this summer, and now David Lynch has given an update on where Chiesa's future lies ahead of the 2026-27 campaign. It's interesting though Liverpool's interest in Matheus Main, because I think this is the summer that Federico Chiesa will go. So signing that multifunctional forward that they can develop would make a lot more sense, he said on the Anfield Index podcast. Although Chiesa hasn't really had an important role to play since arriving from Juventus, it's hard to deny the impact that he's had on the team when times have been tough. The Italian has stepped up to the plate and has put in a solid performance more than once. He may not have featured all that many times, but if Slot and Richard Hughes choose to sell him and not sign a replacement, some serious questions will need to be asked, because the lack of depth that the Anfield outfit have at the moment is staggering. Indeed, several injuries at once can't always be accounted for, but the fact that Slot chose to go into the 2020-25 season with just for 5 if you include Florian Wirtz's attackers is shocking. That is, especially since Salah was away at AFCON for just under a month. Several attackers have already been linked with the Liverpool switch, but unless one of them is brought in before Chiesa is sold, Liverpool could find themselves in a whole world of trouble. Liverpool want to sign Premier League winger who's the Champions League's fastest. Liverpool are chasing the fastest winger in the UEFA Champions League. Will his Premier League club let him leave? Liverpool need to sign a winger. That much is clear to anyone watching them this season, and it's something Arne Slot himself has spoken on. The problem came from selling Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich, but failing to replace him. The Colombian played a vital role for Liverpool last season as a forward, who constantly looked to take players on 1v1 and offering direct running with the ball. That just isn't in the squad right now. Liverpool aren't likely to get it through a new striker, either, given they spent over £100 million to sign Hugo Ekitike and Alexander Isak last summer. In other words, they don't want to sign a new striker again. But a new winger? That feels very likely, and Liverpool reportedly have their eyes on the fastest round. Liverpool first tried to sign Anthony Gordon from Newcastle United nearly 2 years ago. The Magpies faced PSR concerns and needed to sell someone, prompting a potential deal with the Reds for the Scouser. That didn't come to fruition, but Liverpool are certainly fans of the player. Gordon, after all, is a Premier League proven homegrown talent who grew up a fan of the club. He's also the kind of player Liverpool are lacking. No winger has registered a faster top speed than Gordon in the UEFA Champions League this season, per CIES. In fact, Gordon's speed of 37.92 is the fastest of any player listed by CIES as they compare stars across positions. That's what Liverpool have been missing, after all. They don't have a single winger in the top 20. Their fastest in the midfield category is Ryan Gravenberch in 19th. Gordon, then, would add a lot. Codifside are the latest outlet to report on Liverpool's interest in him. It's one that really might have serious legs, too. Liverpool coach gives exciting injury update over record-breaking star's return. One record-breaking Liverpool star could be on his way back from injury soon. Arne Slot's men have been plagued by injuries this season. The attack has probably suffered the most. Slot has had to deal with injury problems for Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike throughout the campaign. The former is now out with a long-term injury. There's also been regular knocks suffered by Jeremy Frimpong, and for most of the season, Liverpool were also unable to call upon their reserved forwards. Will Wright arrived with a lot of hype and excitement in the summer, but he immediately got injured in September and only came back from his blow last month. There has been a similar frustrating pattern for Jadon Danns, who is actually very highly rated by Arne Slot. The youngster has been suffering with recurrent injury problems for over a year now. After a spectacular period in a Liverpool shirt, scoring 3 goals in just 208 minutes, a football player for the first team and become a record breaker, such as being the youngest player to be given his full debut in the Champions League at just 19 years old against PSV last season, Dan's career has stagnated. He was unable to make an appearance on loan at Sunderland last season due to injury. He could not participate in preseason for Liverpool due to injury again, missing the tour to Asia. Danns then came back earlier this season, made a handful of appearances for the U21s, and also a brief came for the first team in the League Cup. But then came another injury which has ruled him out of action ever since October. So far, Liverpool have given very little status over his fitness and condition, and when he could return to action. But speaking to Redmond TV, the club's U21 head coach Rob Page revealed some exciting news and gave an encouraging update on Dan's progress from overcoming his injury. Jadon is doing really well. We do have a medical meeting on Tuesday, so I'll know more then to what level he's at. Every morning he's out on the grass, and he's getting better and better, stronger and stronger every day, Page said. It's great news that he's out on the grass and that he will be getting closer and close to being able to train with the rest of his teammates. The most important thing for Danns and Liverpool now is to not rush him back too early. Liverpool want to avoid a further setback, and that means having to manage him very carefully. Danns is still very young. He's only just turned 20 years old, and when the time comes, he will have a chance to break into the first team again. The last year will have been frustrating. However, the potential is there. If he comes back stronger than ever, Liverpool still have a massive talent on their hands. Liverpool already have their perfect Salah Heir lined up, and it's not Yan Diomande. Liverpool still have a lot of improvements that they could make to their team, even though they spent over £400 million on new players in the summer transfer window. Their attack was the main area that Arne Slot and Richard Hughes focused their recruitment on, but due to injuries and poor form, they've not really improved. This is why it's hardly a surprise to see the Anfield outfit being linked with several new signings. Almost every day, fans seem to believe that the Reds' defense will be the next area of the pitch to have some new talent added to it, but over the last few days, rumors about Liverpool signing attackers have started to emerge. And now, it feels like Hughes may have stumbled across the perfect heir to Mohamed Salah. Although Salah's last outing against Brighton made it feel like he'd rolled back the years with his performance, it's clear that the Reds need to start forming a succession plan for the Egyptian king. His performances have been miles off the pace this season. Despite this, several attackers have been linked with an Anfield switch over the last weeks, but a fresh report from Team Talk has now claimed that Nico Williams is on their shortlist. The report states that Williams, Yan Diomande, Desire Doué, and Bradley Barcola are all seen as potential Salah replacements now that there's no chance of them signing Allister. FSG have been doing extensive groundwork on potential replacements for the Egyptian king, just in case he does end up leaving. During the 2025-26 transfer window, Williams was one of the most sought-after attackers in the world. Bayern Munich and Barcelona both had firm interest in signing the Spaniard, with both clubs believing that he had what it took to improve their attacking lines. In the end, due to backlash from Athletic Club's fanbase, the 23-year-old ended up staying put as he signed a contract extension. Most fans thought that he'd continue to thrive with the La Liga outfit, but after 26 games, he's only contributed to 10 goals. Indeed, the groin injury he suffered at the start of the campaign likely had a lot to do with this, but in most of his outings this term, he's put in decent performances. The fact that he can play on both wings is also a major selling point, especially after the number of injuries that Liverpool have suffered this season. There are obviously still a couple of questions hanging over the head of the Spaniard, but if the Reds can agree a decent price for his transfer, he'd be an impressive signing.